How you guys doing today? I'm Zachary Rowe. I'm a current junior at CBU, and I'm also a wrestler. But today I'm going to be presenting to you my lifelong motor development critical assignment. Normal gait milestones for the first 12 months. So, from 6 to 8 months, an infant should be able to sit with no support. At 9 months, an infant should be able to stand while holding objects. And once they reach 10 months, an infant should be able to pull themselves up to stand. At 12 months, an infant should be able to walk with the support of objects around them and also be able to complete 1 to 2 unsupported steps. And then to the right, we have a picture of a little baby. Normal gait milestones continued. So at 15 months, an infant should be able to walk with no support. When an infant reaches 18 months, they should be able to run without any support. At the 2-year milestone, an infant should be able to go up and down the stairs without any assistance, so with 2 feet at a time. At the age of 3, an infant should be able to walk up the stairs 1 foot at a time. When age 4 comes around, they should be able to hop on 1 foot and walk with a heel to toe sequence, which should be like a regular walking sequence for for adult or a toddler who's advanced in walking. And at the 7-year mark, they should be able to balance on 1 foot. What are the 4 stages of motor development? The 4 stages of motor development are the initial stage, the elementary stage, the mature stage, and the application and teaching stage. The initial stage. The initial stage is also called the cognitive stage and is where movements and skills are being introduced to an infant for the first time. According to an article written by Fagel, the initial stage of motor development is where a person consciously focuses on each movement they have to make in order to complete a complex skill. In this stage, a person uses their senses to watch another person perform a movement so they can make the proper adjustments to execute it. In an article published by the Optimus Minds, they state that during this stage, it begins to digest the information from a movement and arranges it into a order where they can execute the motion. The elementary stage. This stage is also called the associative stage. In this stage, visual information is less important than in the initial stage, but proprioceptive cues are very important. Optimus Minds states that proprioceptive cues talk about the learner focusing more on how their body movement is and what input is being sensed from their joint and muscles. In this stage, a beginner is learning how to use proprioceptive cues to help complete a motor skill. The mature stage. This stage is also called the autonomous stage. It requires years to reach this stage. In this stage, a person relies less on cognitive functions and movements start to become autonomic. This means that movements they were observing in the initial stage and working on in the elementary stage become muscle memory. So basically, these movements that at first that were very hard to execute, they're becoming more muscle memory, and it's a lot easier to do. And the motor skills they were developing became part of their daily movements. Application and teaching stage. Once a person is able to demonstrate a movement to another person, they have entered the application and teaching stage. Being able to walk someone through a movement shows complete mastery towards a motor skill, and teaching it to others only helps further your understanding of the movement. Early childhood. An infant's first attempts at a motor skill may seem very unusual. These movements are classified as spontaneous and infantile reflexes. So, what's a spontaneous movement? A spontaneous movement is kicking the legs, floating the arms, squirming, clenching the fingers and toes. And these movements are early attempts for an infant to make an attempt at a complex motor skill. What are infantile reflexes? So spontaneous movements are more voluntary, but infantile reflexes are involuntary, which means basically it's like an automatic reflex. And so infantile reflexes are involuntary movements an infant makes in response to a stimulus. So an example of this would be if a person put their finger in a baby's hand like this, and they grasped it with their hand, just as shown to the right in this picture right here. Gait abnormalities in early childhood. So one common gait abnormality that is seen in early childhood would be their toes pointed inwards when they're learning how to walk. So this is also called pigeon-toed. This abnormality can lead to pain in their legs and bad habits in future motor developments. This can also be corrected by physical therapy or braces. And to the picture in the picture on the bottom left corner, this is a picture of what pigeon toe looks like. Constraints in infant and childhood development. The biggest constraints would be environmental and social factors. So the environment is a huge constraint for developing motor skills in early childhood. According to an article published by NIH, children who live in warmer environments tend to participate in physical activity more than children who live in colder environments. Physical activity helps advance the development of motor skills in youth because it forces them to use movements they have developed in a practical situation. Toddlers. The transition from crawling to proficient walking is a huge development in this age group. By the age of 4, children should have developed the essential skills for walking. Changes to walking include stride length, speed of walking, and rhythmic changes, and these are all developing until the age of 5. Gait abnormalities in children. A common gait abnormality seen in children is bow legs and knock knees. Bow legs is the outward curve of legs at the knees, and as you can see to the picture in the bottom left, that would be a picture of bow legs. Knock knees is an inward curve of legs at the knee. So knock knees would be the picture to the right. These abnormalities usually are self-corrected as time goes on. Adults/older adults. Older adults have greater spatial and temporal movements, which result in less fluid movements than younger adults. As a person ages, their balance and stability lessens, which results in greater risk of injuries due to falling. Older adults exhibit swaying motions, which leads to decreased stability from foot displacement. Gait abnormalities in adults/older adults. The biggest gait abnormality in older adults and adults are balance issues. So these balance issues are caused by arthritis and osteoporosis. And in the picture to the bottom right there is a picture of what arthritis would look like. And actually, so my grandma, she has arthritis that kind of looks similar to that picture. And she has a hard time doing simple tasks. So she's like picking up a cup of coffee or driving. And she also has arthritis in her knees. She has problems walking as well. And it has led to many injuries. Constraints for adults and older adults. The biggest constraints in adults and older adults are environmental constraints. These can be uneven ground, elevated surfaces, and weather constraints. And like weather constraints could be like from the rain creating like a slippery surface, or the snow blocking people in, or like wind causing balance issues, or anything like that. What have I learned from this course? So I think the biggest takeaway I've learned from this course was the motor milestones in children. And these motor milestones are important for indicating diseases such as autism and Down syndrome. And I definitely think I'll use this later in my life when I become an adult and have a child, because I mean it's just good knowledge to know if your child is on par with the milestone standards, just to see if there's anything wrong with them, and that way you can get them the proper help if they need. I thought it was interesting to learn about the mechanics behind what our brain does in order to complete a movement, because most people don't realize like the complexity of what our brain has to do in order to create like from an early age to create just movements. and they start from like sporadic or infantile reflexes, but then they generate into like complex motor skills. So it's just I thought that was so fascinating to learn. I really had a fun time in this course. I appreciate the hard work and effort you put into this course, Professor. And I thought it was very like the lectures were engaging and very funny. I had a I love the Disney intro that you had, and thank you so much. And on this slide, I have my reference page. Thank you so much for watching my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it.